Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Tuesday. It is Song and Beyond, this wonderful cooperation between the Hampsong Foundation and Idagio Live, or idagio.com, the place where classical music happens. Thank you for joining us. This is really a fun series that we have going now since last September, in fact. I'm not going to make a comment about COVID or that we're still doing this a year later because I've been doing that for the last couple of weeks and it's really boring. Besides that, it's got nothing to do with Song and Beyond. We're here to stay. This is a wonderful series and we really appreciate all of your enthusiasm. We've been pulling some, if that's the right phrase, some incredible numbers of visitors that are just very passionate about song and where this all comes from. And you are at the right place. And if you want to jump over to hampsongfoundation.org or songofamerica.net, you won't be unhappy about that. Today, the beginning of March, what are we now? On the 4th of March, we're going to have all of these Tuesdays focusing on a project that the Hampsong Foundation is cooperating with or collaborating with the Elbphilharmonie in Hamburg, and it is called Song of America, a celebration of black music. And it is part of the, maybe you know the series that I've been doing for decades now called Song of America. The last iteration was Beyond Liberty. Before that was Wondrous Free. And before that it was I Hear America Singing. Partnership started with the Library of Congress. We've sort of gone on. But the point is, my passion about this is that American song, classic song, poetry and music is like a diary of our culture. It's, in fact, the byline for the radio series we did, which you can see on the Hampsong Foundation, is in fact the history or hearing the history of American culture seen through the eyes of our poets and heard through the ears of our composers. And that has taken various sort of centers of gravity, and this month culminating in a series of 3 concerts in Hamburg on the 26th, the 27th, and the 31st, and yes, you can watch them live on Idagio. We are focusing on a celebration of black music, and every Tuesday, believe it or not, we have so many wonderful, sorry Anthony to say this, living live composers, because in the classic world we all kind of think, well, that's strange, but actually no, it isn't. And the heartbeat, one of the heartbeats of this project is in fact so many contemporary wonderful black composers that are carrying our awareness of Americanism, of African American culture, and all its various aspects with it in the music and the poetry. So without further ado, first of all, I know it's wrong to go to the guys first, but our wonderful star guest, I'm so glad you had time to do this, Anthony R. Green. Oh, please, don't make the mistake I made. I looked him up as Anthony Green. That's not who you want to talk to. You want to write Anthony R. Green. Then you're on home base. But I'll show you, I'm going to do some screen sharing later, everybody, and I'll show you how to get to his website and get to Idagio and hear some of his music. It's wonderful. Anthony, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for stressing the inclusion of the R. I can't tell you how much that means to me.
What does the R stand for?
It stands for Rashonn, Rashonn.
Oh, wonderful. That's an unusual name. Terrific. And I don't want to ignore the ladies. Ema Nikolovska, who is part of this project in the end of May in Hamburg, a wonderful Canadian mezzo-soprano. We've known each other for a couple of years, mostly in the weeds and dust and wonder of Franz Schubert. But thank you for joining us on this project, Emma. It's great to see you. You're in Berlin right now, aren't you?
Yes. Thank you for having me. It's awesome to meet Anthony virtually, and hopefully we can meet in person one day.
This is really fun. People, they've never met each other. No, I've never met Anthony. This is just the fun part of, one, the digital world, two, presenting and working on a project like this, but also the liveliness of these kinds of conversations. And of course, Christie Finn, who is not only, I don't even know where to start. Christie Finn is the managing director of the Hampsong Foundation. Christie Finn is my partner in crime on so many projects. She's also a wonderful singer, and we've never shared the stage together in that way. But I know that, for instance, Christie and Anthony have. So we have a lot of little dots to catch up tonight. Anyway, Christie, welcome. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to be here, Tom. So I'm looking forward to our conversation very much.
Oh, it's going to be fantastic. And to kick that off, here we go. Look, Anthony, what I usually do with guests is a silly question. I say, can you give us the 5-minute Wikipedia of Anthony R. Green? I'd love to know, and I'm learning as well. I've admired your music, but I don't know that much about you. I know something about your projects, which we will get to. But where did you grow up? Where are you from? Where did you go to school? Did you want to play baseball? Did you want to dance? Did you want to scream from the road? I mean, how did all of this happen?
That's a really wonderful question. I was born in Arlington, Virginia, and that is actually Nacotchtank land or Anacostan land. I like to give the tribal recognition, and I grew up in Providence, Rhode Island, and that is Narragansett and Wampanoag land.
Mm-hmm.
And I started playing piano by ear when I was 5. There was a piano in the kindergarten classroom, and my kindergarten teacher would play little bits on the piano, and I would repeat everything that he played after him because I really liked seeing his fingers and trying to imitate what he was doing on the piano. So my lovely mom, I am right now in Providence. And my lovely mother took me to church every Sunday, and I developed lots of my pianism in my ear just by interacting with those church musicians. And I also was exposed to so much different music through church, the African American spirituals, gospel music. My mom listened to easy listening. My brother listened to neo soul and rap and R&B. My dad listened to Motown and funk. And here I was listening to alternative rock from my friends. I was playing musical theater pieces at high school. I was accompanying the choirs at my middle school, and I was studying classical piano. So I like to say that I'm this big musical mutt. And when I entered my undergraduate at Boston University, I was also fortunate enough to have teachers that didn't tell me to do one thing, and that has just played a huge role in how I approach composition.
Do you see that, just to hang on that for a moment, do you see that focus or that hammering on young musicians? I'm presuming that you're teaching and giving classes as well as performing. Do you find that a lot of young musicians get shoved into a box or don't get their creativity as supported as you would like to see it?
I can't speak on that only because I'm not blissfully aware of the myriad of ways people teach.
Right.
And I also don't like to put my own judgments on other people's teaching styles. But I do like to tell my own students that we are living in the year 2021, and there is lots of music that has come before us. And all of this belongs on a palette that we have access to. So why only use one color when there are millions of colors on the palette?
I like that. I like that. My favorite metaphor is one river, many wells.
Definitely.
So was it always piano? Do you play any other instrument?
I studied viola for a year, and I took maybe 5 or 6 voice lessons when I was doing my master's at New England Conservatory, but I will never sing Schubert beautifully.
It doesn't matter. Just sing Schubert. However you can sing Schubert. Don't stop singing Schubert. Sing it. I mean, really, seriously. New England Conservatory. One of my favorite conservatories. What a great place. How many years did you spend there?
Just 2 during my master's, but ended up being 2 of the most important years of my life, not only because I got to study with the amazing Lee Hyla and the incredibly fascinating Dr. Robert Kogan, but I met some of the most influential musicians in my life, like Stephen Drury, and my partner in crime with my organization, Castle of Our Skins, Ashley Gordon.
Ashley Gordon, exactly. When did you start composing? Did you think at one point in the early days that you wanted to be a professional pianist, or was composition all that? I mean, how did that kind of come about?
Yeah, so I was always a creative child. I
Mhm.
wasn't a type of person to read fiction. So when people were reading Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and stuff like that, I was reading books about how to crochet and how to knit and how to do macrame and how to do magic tricks and phrase books in Japanese and French. I had lots of language phrase books. And I remember I would walk around the house counting in Japanese, I think annoying my mom, but
Fantastic. I mean, what were your school friends like? I mean, you must have been teased mercilessly.
no, I had a bunch of amazing friends who were just as interested in the world as I was.
That's
So we just kind of
fantastic.
nurtured each other. Yeah, it was one big ball of support, really.
So at some point, learning the piano and learning various pieces and loving it, and I presume doing chamber music and all. At some point, it became clear that something else was going on in your head and your heart, that you wanted to write your own sounds down.
Definitely. I had always composed short piano pieces,
Uh-huh.
especially as gifts for my family and sometimes for my friends. And I
Right.
remember being suggested to attend the Apple Hill Chamber Music Camp
All
by
right.
my piano teacher, Susan Kelly. And I spent a couple summers there. And every time I went there, I seemed to compose a piece either for myself to play at one of the student performances or for my friends to play. And I wrote this joke PDQ Bach piece called Mozart's Piano Concerto for Orchestra because I didn't really like Mozart when I was young. So I really just took every opportunity I could to make fun of Mozart. And I remember asking the string players, how low can a violin go? And there was a horn player,
That's fantastic.
how
Yeah.
long can you play a note? And I just put together this piece for a string orchestra with horn and me as a piano soloist. But no one ever said, Anthony, you could be a composer. That really just happened my sophomore year of Boston University because I entered BU as a piano major.
Right.
Yeah.
So, to catch up a little bit, because of all these various music tributaries in your life, your concentration was always predominantly classical, or is jazz in there as well, and or rock or whatever else? Do
Yeah,
you improvise?
I love improvising. Jazz was never my strong suit, and that isn't me saying I hate jazz because I love jazz and I'm
Hmm.
completely jealous of everybody that can do that.
Tell me
But
about it.
seriously, just incredible musicians. But I did have the fortune of growing up playing piano in my church. So at some point, I ended up leading the services, and I didn't realize how much responsibility that was until I was older and I started to look back on those times, me as a 12-year-old. Finding the key of some song that a deacon starts to sing, they
Right, right,
walk
right.
up to the podium and they just start singing a random song. So as the pianist, you have to identify the song and then you have to find the key and then you start to play. So I was doing this as a 12-year-old, as a 13-year-old, and eventually I ended
Oh
up
my
leading
goodness.
4 choirs with that church. I had that church job on the weekends throughout my undergrad at Boston University. So
Wow.
definitely entrenched in gospel music,
Yeah.
but I am also obsessed with Tori Amos and Erica Badu and Ani DeFranco. So when I would get together
Yeah.
with my friends, if there was a piano on the corner, we would jam. Like that was it. Hands down, we would jam.
That's fantastic. What? Okay, Christy, how did you guys connect? It was this through Castles of Our Skin? I mean, we should talk before we start jumping around and looking at things on the web. And there's a bit of a blurb here about Anthony I want to read. But how did you meet? I mean, Christy, you're quite well known and very much a specialist of behind your back. I love cliches. I must say, it's like the Broadway actors and singers we call hoofers, right? And I didn't know until maybe 10 years ago that they actually call opera singers park and barkers, right? Which I kind of think is very, very sweet, So we call musicians like Christie with all these ears and all that, we call them dog whistle singers because it's stuff we can't hear. It's like, what is she doing? What is she doing? And of course the composer going, oh wow, man, it's like fantastic. And we're going, what? So anyway, you're quite well known in this world. Is that how you guys came together?
Well, actually, my husband, Felix, he was in the Ensemble Moderne Academy with Ashley Gordon, quite a while ago. So we were already friends.
And what is the arts ensemble? What did you say? What is it?
The Ensemble Moderne.
Yeah, Ensemble
Academy.
Moderne. And where is that?
That's in Frankfurt, in Germany.
Oh, it's in Frankfurt. Okay. And Ashley was over there also studying.
So Ashley was in the academy for viola. She's a fantastic violist.
Right.
And my husband's a clarinetist. He was the clarinetist of the group. And I became friends with her at that time. And then I was following what she was doing with the group Castle of Our Skins, and I can't wait to hear Anthony talk about that. And I got to kind of know Anthony's music. I heard one of his songs in the African American Art Song Alliance conference that we streamed in 2017.
Right.
And then I just kind of approached him to write a piece for me and my husband. We have a duo, a clarinet voice duo.
What a surprise.
And
and little Max in about 10 years is going to be doing the piano bit.
He might. He's really into guitar now, but that's a whole other different thing.
Very cool. Very cool. Has he got good ears? Has he got your ears?
I guess time will tell. The kid's not yet 3, so let's see.
Well, I don't mean to push, but I mean, come on,
But I really loved everything I heard from Anthony. So I just reached out and we got to know each other. And I really just every time I talk to you, Anthony, I'm just so inspired by your intellectual curiosity and by everything that you offer, not just as an artist and a performer, but just as like a human being, an educator, a person who connects with other humans. So I'm just so happy that we had a chance to write this piece. And also we have an upcoming piece that we'll be doing together next year.
And is this got words or just sounds?
Well, the piece that we wrote first, and actually Anthony wrote almost all of it, I wrote some of the text, is actually, it has a lot of different elements to it. It has vocal and musical elements played on the clarinet as well. It has performative elements, some visual elements, text, of course, and we can talk about that piece at some point, but it's based on several works of art that were inspiring to myself and to Anthony and to my husband, Felix.
So, Anthony, do you write a lot of your own text, and would you call it poetry, or are you just looking for word, sound, metaphor, conversation things?
Yeah, throughout my career, I have been known to write some of my texts. I have a couple of operas, and I wrote the libretti for these operas.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I am working on an opera now with a libretto from a wonderful writer named Mark Lebowski. So this will be one of 2 instances where I didn't write my own libretto. But yes, I have set some of my own poetry. And for the piece that Christie and Felix and myself collaboratively created, there is text in Latin and Catalan and French and English.
I love it.
And
I love it.
It takes just text from all sorts of different sources, from Van Gogh, from Ovid, from Gaudi, from Christie, from myself. Yeah, it's a little bit of a mutt text. And it created a wonderful, wonderful journey for this visual art exploration.
And it's all, as you say, all centered around visual art. So these texts should give us some sort of visual reference, while we're also getting an audible reference to color or thought, or what? What are you after in the piece? I mean, we won't be able to probably listen to it, but I'm just really curious.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So everything works together to give an impression of some of the either visual ideas or the
Hmm.
philosophical ideas from the artists that we're referencing. So, for example, in the very first movement, it was an artist that I selected named Scipio Moorhead. And
Hmm.
the story of Scipio Moorhead is quite complex because apparently only one of his pieces still exists, which is a drawing of Phyllis Wheatley. And Phyllis Wheatley is the first Black woman to have a book published in history. She was an African that was stolen, brought to Boston without any command of English at the age of 10, and over 3 or 4 years gained a mastery of English, studied ancient Greek and Latin, knew about mythology and politics. And at some point in her life, she encounters Scipio Moorhead and writes this poem to SM, a young painter, upon seeing his works. So, in this particular movement, Christie reads the poem with some vocal inflections that I add into Phyllis Wheatley's text, while Felix draws Scipio Moorhead's name and writes words from the poem that he hears. And at the end, the visual document is placed upon a wall. And that's
Wow.
the movement. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. I want to figure out a concert to present and see
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Is it tough to sing, Christy?
Well, that piece is improvisatory. So, yes and no, because you have to make your own decisions. And if you choose, yeah, it is, there are a lot of difficult elements, I would say, in Anthony's music. But I do love the improvisatory elements and especially kind of the physical and performative things. It's very difficult to describe. We'll have to point everyone in the direction of the video at some point when it's public.
When if I say to you, Anthony, that I mean, dropping the needle and getting to know you sonically first, you've written some unbelievably beautiful melodies. I mean, really beautiful pieces. And you've written some really crazy stuff for the percussion, and kind of probably everything. So if I use the word eclectic, is that okay, or is there a different word that's more sanitized for what someone of your extraordinary talent does?
I think eclectic is fine. I like whimsical. I like
I'm trying to be politically correct
exploratory.
here. I mean, I can't believe I was on Thomas Hampson interviews when he called me eclectic. I'm going to send him a letter bomb. I don't know if
Well,
is eclectic a bad word. I've always said of myself that I'm either fundamentally eclectic or horribly superficial, and I don't know. Somebody else will decide that. So what the hell?
exactly. I'm with you on that, to be honest. I'm too busy living my life and reading and studying to kind of care about the quibbles of what adjectives people use to describe me. As long as they're not racist adjectives, I'm fine.
You've had some bravo. You've written some beautiful things about identity. I want to get to that. Emma, you're not just a pretty face. We want to talk to you as well. So, how did you come across these songs for? I mean, when I invited you to this project, the end of May in Hamburg to celebrate black music, and I remember I called you and I said, look, this is about African American music, musicians, and performers, and have invited a lot of colleagues from the states to come over. And of course, my first phone call, or Christie's and my first phone call, was to Louise Toppin, who is sort of I don't know if I hope this isn't politically correct, but the guru of she's made this amazing project called the African Diaspora Music Project, and it is just and she's just now launching, even as we speak, she's launching the instrumental part of this amazing database. So Louise and I, and with Christie's help, we've been curating this thing. But my point, Anthony, and also to Emma, my point of this was to celebrate Black American music. We have to make sure that it's capital American and black. It is American music, and I guess my throw line is Langston Hughes is my poet. Yes, he's African American, and yes, he informs and enlightens me to a part of the culture I didn't grow up in, and maybe I would, and maybe some people would never come to it. But that story, that narration in his poetry, that identification of so many aspects of American culture is our story. And it seems to me, if we don't celebrate our collective story, I don't want to say regardless of skin color, but above and beyond skin color, then how are we actually going to really celebrate an American culture and try and put some of this racism to bed? That's the thrust behind this passion of mine for this project and so forth. And that's what I had to say, I want to have this beautiful, wonderful new leader singer, white Canadian girl, celebrating with me as a couple of white people, black music, if you want to call it that. And we've had some very good discussions about that. So that's a wonderful preamble. Ema, take it away. Where did you find these songs, and what has the journey been for you?
Well, I came across Anthony's music, I think it was this past November or December, because I'm constantly trawling the internet and doing research about repertoire.
Yes, you are.
I look at who are my colleagues and other people singing, what are they interested in, how, I get inspired by my colleagues' different initiatives in Europe, in Canada, and in the States. And I also go on random Google searches and go find different links between different composers and organizations and everything. So it is it's one of my favorite parts of the whole process of getting to know the world of sound as much as possible. So when I came across Anthony's site, I was really intrigued because there is such a variety of different, different instrumentations and different concepts, and which you will hear when you go to his site, and also when I assume when you play some excerpts later on. And I was so fascinated that there were performance art elements, that there were experimental and improvisatory elements. There was lyricism, and there was everything. And I'm most inspired by composers who are constantly shape-shifting and probing the imagination and challenging performers to delve into parts of their imagination they didn't even know existed before. So I had a sense of all that when I was looking through Anthony's site, and also I have some projects with a collective with some of my friends in Toronto and Berlin. We're leading up to a project in October, finding ways to incorporate different kinds of media and performance. And so Anthony's approach, I felt, was really up my street in terms of the philosophy. And so I started thinking and considering more, but other things came in the beginning of the year, and I had to do research for some other programs. And then you called me with the Hamburg project, which I'm so honored to be in.
Well, let's not breeze over the fact that you gave one of the most extraordinary Schubert recitals I've ever heard by a young singer. I mean, 80 minutes of I mean, was it more? I don't know, but I mean, songs you'll never hear because they've got 27 Strophen. I mean, the Leichenfantasie. Good luck, and all by memory. I just sat there. I wanted to laugh out loud, but we were live online, so I wasn't allowed to do that. But it was really fantastic. So yes, you were slightly busy in the month of January. Yeah, well done.
And the parameter of that concert was sort of program only Schubert. And then there are a lot of I'm really lucky to have other situations where people say to me, program this amount of music. It can be whatever you want, or program this amount of music.
Right.
You have to be careful of copyright, so you can't program any composer in the past 70 years or something because of copyright. And then there's this Hamburg project, which is research for different African-American composers we could all program together with our team. And from all the different aesthetics we had represented with, Robert Omens and William Grant Still, Rosephine Powell and Harriet Davidson Watkins, and myriad other fantastic composers, I thought, I would love to sing Anthony's music and just represent a different type of musical voice within all these fantastic African-American composers. And
what's your textual source of these songs? What are the texts?
So I've got the three quotes of Shakespeare, and also the from the cycle All That Is Good. These are three texts. The third is by Sojourner Truth, and the three Shakespeare quotes. From what I understand, this is it's a minimalist cycle, which I thought was super whimsical, and I loved that. I loved the concept of it, and I thought there's so much space for humor and experimentation there. And then, in terms of the Sojourner Truth text in the song from the cycle All That Is Good, I thought that the text was beautiful, and the way Anthony set it was almost like you can hear her thinking her words out loud and developing them as the song progresses. And so and also the message of it, which is everything that has a beginning has an end and an ending, and all that is good is without end. I think that is incredibly beautiful, and I understand why you wanted to end your cycle on that song as well. And so it's these. I feel like these two different kinds of songs. I chose them also because they would have fit within the aesthetic of the entire performance as well.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, just to give you a little bit of a focus here, on the 26th, the concert we will have is a celebration in Hamburg. It's a chamber music concert celebration. We have Lawrence Brownlee is coming, and we have Leah Hawkins. Yes, and Howard Watkins is playing. I have to keep those two straight. And Leah Hawkins is a fantastic young soprano. Louise Toppin will sing. I will sing. We also have Joseph Joubert, the wonderful pianist, American pianist, coming as well to play the two pianists. And we will just rotate what we call ping pong, but that's a little silly. But we will rotate quite very much like a beautiful bouquet, hopefully, of songs. But on the 26th, the first night, it is a celebration absolutely and totally of Langston Hughes, the great African-American poet of the early 20th century. And we will hear Langston in German translation as well. He had an enormous impact in Central Europe as an identification, as Europeans identifying the actual underbelly, if you will, the vulnerabilities, the story not told of American society. But also, I think Langston's poetry just hit a particular honest nerve of real people in real life, in real concerns, that seemed to be more of a first-person real-time narrative than some of the other contemporary poetry of the time, which is still very much looking for a style or a way to say something that was very pretty and so forth. And Langston just sort of came right through. And of course, he was deeply impacted by jazz and wanted to write a language that was similar to what they would call jazz. But that's a whole other program that we'll have to do some other time. But then on the 27th, we have a wonderful program which is more of a panorama of past voices of the African American classic canon, and of course contemporary voices of the classical African American canon. And then on the 31st is the orchestra concert, and that'll be really very exciting. A lot of William Grant still there, as well as Valerie Coleman's beautiful piece. Christie, help me with the title.
It's called Umoja.
Emoja, I'm sorry, just had a blank there for a minute. And some wonderful arias and some wonderful, that's the only time you'll hear spirituals all week. Also the frame of reference is, of course, the spirituals. I love how Roland Hayes referred to African-American spirituals as not just spirituals, as in spiritual search for divine, but literally identifying, like folk songs, the path and journeys and development of the African-American community. And so we're trying to wrap that up as well, but really helping people understand that classic song, text, poems set to music is as well alive and well in the Black African-American Black idiom. I've often said, and to go, well, first, Anthony, I want you to respond to this wonderful young singer responding to your works. Is she spot on, or do we need to shut the camera and have a chat?
Well, I haven't heard any recordings yet, so I can't respond. But
her reaction to the pieces.
Oh, yeah, definitely in terms of interpretation, completely spot on. And I'm really, really looking forward to hearing the performance.
Are you in the Netherlands?
I normally live in the Netherlands, but right now I'm in Providence, Rhode Island.
I was going to think you could just hop over.
I know. I
Oh.
want to.
Look, I want to read this because I want everybody to hear this. I pulled this off of one of the myriad websites, and then I'll go look at that. This is a description of Anthony R. Green. The artistic practice of, I like that word, practice, of Anthony R. Green, composer, performer, social justice, includes the creation of original works of music for various vocal and instrumental forces, collaborations, and performances as a pianist, music-based performance artist, improviser, and conductor. You are a 2018 McKnight, that's a big deal, ladies and gentlemen, visiting composer with the American Composers Forum. Green has had original works performed in over 20 countries, including premieres in the American Composers Alliance Summer Festival, we spoke of that, Symphony Space, which is an amazing place in Manhattan for new music, New York City, the Gaudeamus? Gaudeamus Music Week in Utrecht, the Netherlands, the 2015 World Sax Open. I wanted to say Sex Open. I'm glad I didn't. Sax Open, as in saxophone, I imagine. Strasbourg, France, the 2010 my screen, and International, I've written over the top of how this is, the International Conference of Contemporary Music in Corona, Spain, 2018 Omaha under the Radar Festival. His music has been performed by numerous solos and ensembles, including Gabriela Diaz, violin, Julian Otis, tenor, I'm going to mess this up, Haik Melikan, piano, 1 Ounce Opera, Transient Canvas, Sound Energy, Alea the Third, the Playground Ensemble, Ossia New Music Ensemble, and Alarm Will Sound. And I love, after all of that, the last closing mark is to name a few. It's fantastic. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you're lost in that litany, I'm right with you. This is a fantastic world of music and sound that a lot of us don't get to. And so this program today is as much not just celebrating you as a paramount African American composer, but a incredibly engaged musical voice of the future. And this is something that is just really exciting. Can you unpack some of these different tributaries? Tell me about your life as a performer. Oh, and not just pianist. This interests me.
Yeah, so at some point in my life, I was in Boulder, Colorado, hanging out with one of my friends, Nathan Wheeler, who is an incredible composer, an incredible sound artist, and an incredible movement artist. And we were just improvising with our voices and really having fun. And we recorded this session. And I remember thinking, there's something here. I feel alive doing this, and I want to explore this aspect of my performance side of myself much more. And I ended up writing this proposal to interpret a graphic score by Mark Applebaum called
Mm-hmm.
The Metaphysics of Notation. And fortunately, the proposal was accepted. So I ended up creating this electronic backdrop, and the score consisted of giant artistic panels that were hung on the balcony of this wonderful museum, the Cantor Art Center, in Palo Alto, a part of the Stanford campus. So I'm sitting up here, I press play on my electronic track, and I go through each panel and vocally realize this score.
Wow.
And that was one of the most exhilarating moments of my life. So fast forward, through Castle of Our Skins and through research, I end up striking this incredible relationship with one of the most brilliant people who have ever walked the face of this earth, and that's Renee C. Baker. She is the conductor of the Chicago Modern Orchestra Project. She is a composer, a violinist, a violist, a visual artist, a polymath. She works with silent film, with text, with textual scores, and she's also just a brilliant thinker as well. And she starts to write pieces for Castle of Our Skins, and I take a look at some of her pieces and I say, I really want to perform some of this stuff. And through this relationship, I ended up exploring more of the psychological aspects of performing, getting into a character's mind and embodying certain types of philosophies and mentalities. And through the mixture of performing her music and improvising with my voice, playing piano, of course, and improvising on the piano, adding movement, adding fixed media audio and projected imagery, I ended up creating this set of pieces that I call Zoom In, which abstractly tells the story of Black people in the United States. And I've ended up performing this project in various different presentations in Maine, in Georgia, in Amsterdam, in Bern, really close to Zurich. Yes, in Turkey, and I was supposed to perform it in Thailand this past year, but pandemic unfortunately hit. So I'm looking forward to performing again and really championing the works of Renee C. Baker. I've also commissioned some other composers to write pieces for this project, and I'm looking forward to premiering those pieces as well.
Wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take you a bit on an excursion here. If I do this right, please let me do this right. We need to go to Safari. And yes, I'm on a Mac, never mind. Now, do you all see Anthony R. Green's Composer Performer Social Justice website? I get it right. Wonderful. Well, that's a good landing place for you. And you can look at events and projects. You can have a look at his bio. You can have a look at all these incredible works. It says listen, watch, but I don't have any active things, but I'll figure it out later. But I just wanted to show you this. This is really quite fun. You can get to know him. I'm just breezing over here. Then we're going to go over here, and this we have mentioned a couple of times. I'd love for you, and I have a feeling that this falls under the other aspect I'd love you to talk to us about, and that's social justice. But there is this wonderful project, group, mission, whatever, I love the mission, Castle of Our Skins, which I heard for the first time from Christie and said, you really need to check this out. This is amazing stuff going on. What's going on here? I'm going to leave the page. I may come back to our normal page, but I'm going to leave the page up here so people can see it. Anthony, where did this idea come from? What is this all about?
Yes, so Ash was coming back from Frankfurt to the United States the same year that I was moving to the Netherlands. And she contacted me and she said, I would love to do some project with you before you move to Europe. And we planned this viola piano recital, and it unfortunately ended up falling through because the venue went bankrupt and didn't contact any of us. But
you showed up for the show, no lights were on?
Luckily, it didn't get to that point. We just kept on calling and we didn't get an answer, and we found out through word of mouth. But I immediately said to Ash, I'm going to come back in November, so our June project, we can just postpone it to November. Maybe we should just play a recital of music by Black composers. And so we looked at each other and we said, who are the Black composers? This is 2013. Ash and I, at that point, has 15 plus years of education in what people would think are the top institutions for learning music. Yet we are two Black classical musicians who couldn't, between the two of us, name more than 10 Black composers at that time.
Oh, Anthony, you do my heart well. Because, I mean, this is so important. This is not, this is just so important, what you're saying. it's like a parallel universe of composing and creativity for decades within our country, and yet even your community, even you, wonderful black musicians, but also avant-garde musicians. We've kept ourselves from this. We've kept our public from this. It's amazing that you would say that, because I want all of our public who feels like they're maybe getting a little nervous or they're at sixes because we're talking about composers or a repertoire that they don't know anything about. You have every reason to be disappointed you don't know what we're talking about. But on the other hand, think of how exciting this is to actually have someone like Anthony take us by the hand and show us and talk to us about how large and wide this community is. Sorry to interrupt you, but it just moved me a lot what you were saying.
No, it's no problem at all. And you're absolutely right. No one should feel embarrassed at all, because the way music history has unfolded and music education has unfolded in academia and in the concert halls, it has unfolded in a way that excluded many Black composers and women composers, composers from South America, African composers, right? It's just been a really horribly exclusionary unfolding. And we are right now at a precipice where we can take this knowledge and try to implement justice into this world, or we can just say there's no need to do this and continue on with the status quo. But I think there are
I vote for the first option.
Thank you. And I think we are at a moment now when many people are also voting for that first option, because when you look at the wave of people talking about injustice within classical music, there have been movements that have happened throughout history. They just haven't stuck. So I like to think that Castle of Our Skins and this program and the work that so many other people are doing to get this message of injustice corrected, I think right now we're at a moment where this work will stick.
What you're describing is what has become vernacular, the tipping point. Do you feel like we're at a tipping point?
I think we've tipped already.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
I think coming out of COVID, there's going to be a lot more energy to embrace the edges of repertoire and even the unknown. I mean, obviously, we want to get back to the great performances of the known and loved, but I'm hoping that presenters will feel a wind at their back to be courageous about publishing and being in the middle of co-producing this project in Hamburg. May I just parenthetically say I hope the publishers will get the message as well, because right now they are some of the most obstinate, uninterested people in the face of new music, which is a real problem. Because we have to. When you use the word streaming, and everybody thinks, "Aha, this is going to be a CBS special or something." I mean, it's just so hard to make new music available to the ubiquitous audience. And so I wish you Godspeed. What was this? Was this a presentation you gave, or is this just this wonderful article? What the optics of new music say to Black composers. Wonderful lead-off paragraphs, I must say. Was this a presentation, or you just wrote this article?
So I was asked to contribute a thought piece to New Music Box, and I had this on my heart for a while. And after writing this, I showed the text to Ash, to Dr. Kira Thurman, who is a wonderful scholar and a friend of Castle of Our Skins. I think I even sent it to Christie and got some wonderful comments before publishing. I also just like to give a shout out to Frank O'Teary, who edits this website and edits the articles on New Music Box. And the images that you see, the top image is from one of my Zoom In performances, and that was a performance in Omaha, Nebraska. That was a part of the Omaha Under the Radar Festival, which is an amazing festival. And when that gets back to being produced, everyone should go because it's fantastic. So I wrote this and I had it on my heart, and for some reason, it kind of went viral within the new music community, and I'm
Big
really
time.
glad that it did.
Big time. That's another bio of your. Oh, this is a wonderful interview. I love it. I will always 5 questions to Anthony R. Green. You can't help but want to read an article like that. And this is on the. Where are we now? Oh, this is American Composers Forum. So,
No, this is
anyway,
I Care If You Listen. Well, yeah, they just swallowed up I Care If You Listen,
oh, I
American
see.
Composers
Okay.
Forum. Yeah.
It's a wonderful article. Okay, I'm going to come back out. Enough small screen stuff. No, I'm sorry. We need to go back in. I'm going to live on the. I'm going to live. Where are we? Here we are. On the edge tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We do have some restrictions to how much music we can actually play, which I find really kind of strange. On. What did I do with it? I know. I'm in my app. Here, we're going to go over the app, and I already queued up. This is the iDadjo app, which is quite fun. You can also access iDadjo.com on a web browser, any of them. And music is a huge, over couple over 2 million different tracks, huge database, interrelated and so forth. If you put in anybody's name, and I put in Anthony's name obviously, and came up with a couple of recordings, but I think if I do 30 seconds, I
I
think
think
that
we
just.
can't see it. I think you have to reshare your screen.
Yeah, we don't see the Idagio, Tom. Yeah.
That's not good. Well, let me try again.
And make sure you
Thank
share
you.
sound.
And I got shared sound. Well, I'll get it. How about now?
Looks good. I see it.
Here we are. Here's a record called The Suite, which is Telemann and Bach. Well, what's that doing on there? And then we have Elizondo, and we have Mr. Green. I'm going to drop the needle for just a few seconds, and we're going to have a listen. As cruel as that is, I'm trying to stay under the radar here, but I remember this being quite beautiful. Oh my, oh my, that just sounds like a warm blanket moment, and all
Aw,
those
thank
good things.
you.
Beautiful. And there's other things as well, but it isn't enough. Check it out. You can go to the various. But Idadjo has a couple of albums that Anthony's on, and it's really good, really great fun to meet his music. Emma, you do improvisation as well, don't you? That's something I never did. I mean, people thought I was improvising, but I was just making a mistake.
I do a little bit, but not enough to call myself an improviser or say that I'm on the way to doing even more. But
Didn't you and Daniel do something?
we did something small, and we're about to do more things. But I think it's important for it to become an increasing part of our practice, and also, I mean, the amazing thing about working with living composers is being able to for them to tell you that you can improvise, and also to also get a sense of their energy and their spirit, and I've loved hearing Anthony speak this whole time, because I have more of a feeling of what is his world like in terms of sound as well. When you hear someone, just speak and talk about themselves and their life, it's such a privilege that we get to interact with composers, and have these dialogues and ask them about what they think about their music. And I love it when they encourage us to improvise as well.
You know, one of the things we haven't talked about this one, is what I do have up my sleeve for our rehearsal time in, if the composers that are with us, like Anthony, would like to have real-time contact, we'll set up a Zoom or something so you can just be in the rehearsal room and you guys can have that conversation about it. I mean, a lot of fun. Ladies and gentlemen, the concerts are going to be the 26th and the 27th of May and the 31st of May. Now, they will be filmed digitally for us. We're still under pretty strict COVID restrictions in Germany. Highly unlikely we're going to have much of a public. We are, however, going to film the concerts in real time. They will, however, be broadcast on the Elbphilharmonie website, as well as the Hampsong Foundation website or Facebook page, as well as Idagio. And Idagio has implemented a new pay if you want, pay as you go, or zero-sum tariff rating. So it will be available for free, but if you love it and want to contribute to the artist and the whole adventure, you can if you want. But it will be available on Idagio for a certain amount of time, and then live for some time on the Elbphilharmonie page, so you can get to know this music and get to know the program. We're right in the heart of the finishing touches and planning, and logistics, as you can imagine, are very complicated because of our times, but also it's a lot of moving parts to put this together, culminating in the William Dawson Negro Symphony on the 31st. And we have this marvelous new conductor on the horizon, Roderick Cox, who is the most recent winner of the George Solti competition, an extraordinary musician right now at the San Francisco Opera, are just coming back, very successful run of Barbara Seville, of all things, but he was doing some concerts before that. So we've got a wonderful lineup. It's going to be, I think, a very important concert. You're going to hear a world of music over several decades that you will inevitably ask yourself, why am I hearing this for the first time in 2021? And if that is what happens, I have achieved my goal, because the answer is rhetorical. Christie, close us up.
Well, I would love it if Anthony would close us up by telling us what he has coming up. What is next? What is Castle of Our Skins doing right now, so that we can be inspired by what you have going on?
Good idea.
Well, I have so much going on right now, and I always get a little bit afraid that if I start naming things, I'm going to forget everything. But in terms of Castle of Our Skins, one project that I would love to mention is all throughout this month of May, we are promoting an anthology of pieces that we just made available for digital purchase. So last year, when the pandemic hit, we, of course, had to cancel all of our live programming, and we thought, how do we stay relevant during these times? And one idea that Ash and I had was to create the Black Composer Miniature Challenge. And we asked Black composers to respond to this challenge by creating a piece for any combination of viola, piano, spoken word, electronics, objects, just something that Ash and I could record asynchronously. We received 18 submissions. We recorded all 18 submissions, and now we've created an anthology for people who are interested in seeing the scores to purchase. And I also run the Beauty in Black Artistry blog, the Biba blog. So this month, the Biba blog will re-feature the artists that we recorded and support. And so I would love for everyone watching to check out castleskins.org and look up the Biba blog, look up #BCMC, the Black Composer Miniature Challenge, and check out these 18 fantastic gems. And you'll also get a chance to see Ash and I perform.
Love it. Wonderful. We will all do it. We are right in at 1 hour. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. Thank you very much, Christie Finn and Ema Nikolovska and Anthony R. Green. Fantastic, wonderful conversation, and I can hardly wait to hear the pieces and listen to more of your music. And yes, come join us in Hamburg, but come join us anytime. We will be next week, next Tuesday, visiting with some other artists in the program. I think Leah's up next week, isn't she? Oh, how
Leah
fun.
is up next, and the composer Jasmine Barnes will
Oh
also join
my!
us.
And the composer
So,
Jasmine Bott.
very
That
exciting.
was a question. I'm going to go over just 1 minute, Anthony. I want to ask you: is the community of contemporary Black composers a friendly one? Are you guys in touch? Do you know Jasmine, for instance? Do you know Valerie Coleman? Or or is everybody just sort of as composers are in their own worlds?
It's a little bit of both. There are quite a number of Black composers that I interact with. I know and love Valerie, even though I haven't met her in real life, but we've chatted, and Castle of Erskines has played some of her pieces
Hmm.
before. I've never really interacted with Jasmine, although I've recommended her to some people for some opportunities that I've been given, because I always love to pay it forward, as the saying goes. But yeah, there are quite a number of really
It
awesome
seems
young
it
Black composers.
It's been so much fun, and it started. I mean, Christy opened my eyes to it, but as we really started on this, it's been fun to get to know this community. There's a lot of amazing energy in the multicultural ethnic community in general, but specifically for our project, the African American classical composers and avant-garde composers. It's incredibly exciting. All right, I just flopped over. Sorry about that. Thank you. Thank you for being with us tonight. And we look forward to seeing you next Tuesday.